the internet is something that should be considered a human right and something that the government cannot take away from you.
Yes, definitely. I mean, this notion that national security is an excuse to shut down the internet, that's exactly what we heard in Egypt, in Syria, and all these other countries. And so, yeah, it's true. Sites like WikiLeaks are going to be putting up some embarrassing material about what the U.S. government does, and people are going to be organizing to protest about it and try and change their government. You know, and that's a good thing. That's what all these First Amendment rights of free expression, of freedom of association are all about. And so the notion that we should try and shut those down, I think, just goes against very basic American principles. The principle, I think, is one that our founding fathers would have understood. If the internet had been around back then, instead of putting post offices in the Constitution, they would have put ISPs.
The freedoms guaranteed in our Constitution, the freedoms our country had been built on, would be suddenly deleted. New technology, instead of bringing us greater freedom, would have snuffed out fundamental rights we'd always taken for granted. And I realized that day, talking to Peter, that I couldn't let that happen.
So it's not, only certain people have a license to speak. Now everyone has a license to speak. It's a question of who gets heard.
That's the dream of Open Library, is building this website where both you can leap from book to book, from person to author, from subject to idea, go through this vast tree of knowledge that's been embedded and lost in big physical libraries that's hard to find, that's not very well accessible online, is really important because books are a cultural legacy. Books are the place people go to write things down, and to have all that swallowed up by one corporation is kind of scary.
There's sort of these two polarizing perspectives, right? Everything is great. The internet has created all this freedom and liberty, and everything's going to be fantastic. Or everything is terrible. The internet has created all these tools for cracking down and spying and, controlling what we say. And I think both are true, right? The internet has done both, and both are kind of amazing and astonishing. And which one will win out in the long run is up to us. It doesn't make sense to say, oh, one is doing better than the other. They're both true. And it's up to us which ones we emphasize and which ones we take advantage of, because they're both there and they're both always going to be there.